Anybody, anywhere,
It's time to take command.
The Cardiac Commanders are the Clutch Commanders!
With former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen.
This pass caught by Paulsen, the tight end.
And from 106.7 The Fan, Grant Paulsen.
This is Take Command. You can watch us on the 106.7 The Fan, Team 980 YouTubes. You can also subscribe, rate, review, download this podcast. It is available wherever you get your audio. Logan Paulsen played in the NFL for a decade. I'm Grant Paulsen. You can listen to me on 106.7 The Fan. We give you 3 eps a week, one right after the game, one looking ahead to the next game, and one looking back at why things went right or wrong previously. So, Logan, next up, for the Commanders at 3-4, the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. And I got to say, personally, selfishly, I'm excited, man. Kansas City, Arrowhead Stadium, is one of 4 stadiums I've never been to. And I'm making the trip. I will be out there for Monday Night Football. So I'm checking one off the box here.
Yeah, I mean, Arrowhead's an awesome place, man. Like, I have a kind of a small Rolodex of stories regarding Arrowhead, but I remember we had a preseason game when I was in San Francisco in 2017. And it was, like a preseason game. It's week 1. Like, you're like, we'll be fine. Don't need to think about the silent count or anything like that. And it was so loud for a preseason game that we needed to go silent count when we were in like the low red. And I was like, what is happening here? Like, why is it? But it's a great environment. It's a great place to play. The fan base is awesome. And it's kind of got like that cool, like one of those cool older stadium vibes. So I think it's an awesome spot and a really, perfect venue for Monday night.
Yeah, primetime football. Now, when this one was made on the schedule for national TV, the idea was Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback living and playing, I should say, and one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And Jaden Daniels is kind of the next great quarterback. We don't have a Daniels-Mahomes matchup. We've got a Mariota-Mahomes matchup because Jaden's already been ruled out with the hamstring injury, and obviously Washington was expected to be better than 3-4. Meanwhile, the Chiefs come in. They've won 2 in a row over the Lions and the Raiders. They've won 4 of their last 5, and they have completely gotten their season back on track. They were 0-2 to start, and people were throwing dirt on them. They're now all better. I don't know what shot they got or what medicine the doctor gave them, but like when you saw them and they were sniffling and they couldn't get out of bed a few weeks ago, they're running around now. They're running sprints. Like they are all healed.
Yeah, and I think this is this is one of the difficult things about the kind of 24-hour news cycle for sports is you got to talk about something. So everyone was talking about Kansas City, and I was like, I'm always kind of a slow, like I'm not a hot take guy. I'm slow to kind of make those declarative statements. And I was like, as long as Patrick Mahomes is over there, man, there's always an opportunity they can figure it out. And they have figured it out in a dramatic way. They beat some really good football teams. And this, this kind of looks like the Kansas City Chiefs of old that have every year in order to win, they kind of reinvent themselves a little bit. There's a slight change offensively. There's a slight change defensively. And they seem to be really good at finding those intersections of areas where they can improve, areas they can change. But yeah, they're a good ball club, and I think a big reason for that is 15, obviously. So
we'll get to the Chiefs' offense and Washington's defense and the matchup they're in. The Chiefs have scored 30 in back-to-back games, 61 over the last 2. Rashee Rice comes back, presents big problems. But let's start when Washington's defense is on the offense is on the field, rather, and the Chiefs' defense is out there. They got some really good football players as well. George Karlaftis off the edge is a talented rusher. Chris Jones, a defensive tackle, can get to the quarterback. They've got a linebacking core led by Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquil that's pretty good. And then in the secondary, Trent McDuffie is an outstanding cornerback among the talent that they've got on the back end. When you watch this defense, what do you see?
Man, like the first thing that jumps off the tape, man, is they are incredibly disciplined. Like they know, like their run fits are excellent, their coverage responsibility is excellent, the way they play their leverages is excellent. Like they're just a very, very sound group. And like you mentioned some of the playmakers there, it really feels like, yeah, obviously those playmakers are outstanding. Chris Jones is one of the better pass rushing defensive tackles in football. Karlaftis is kind of this blue collar pass rusher who, is going to beat you through hard work and just kind of running through your face. Reminds me of another Purdue pass rusher that we had here in Ryan Kerrigan a little bit, like maybe not the flashiest, most aesthetically pleasing rusher, but just finds ways to win. That linebacker trio is one of the better ones in the NFL, and the fact that they can stay in base, versus multiple different personnel groupings, and those guys can run, cover, hit, and tackle in space is a testament to them. And you mentioned McDuffie and some of the secondary players. Like, yes, they're all very talented, but man, like the detail with which they play is extremely high. They tackle well, they fit runs well, they play their coverage responsibilities well. It really just jumps out off the film to you, So in terms of what Washington has to do, it's a tough ask because they're so well coached, but in some ways it makes it easier because when you play a defense that's so regimented and so ruled out, you can kind of tweak with some of your formations and stuff to put them in conflict. So yes, it's a big lift. This is one of the better defenses we've played this year. Like, they are really, really good. And it's not like because the personnel necessarily, it's just because they're so well coached.
Well, and some of that is continuity too. I mean, a lot of these guys have been with Spags for a while. Steve Spagnuolo, their defensive coordinator, has been there since 2019. So this is season number 6 for him in Kansas City with a good bit of this personnel. He was the interim head coach with the Giants back in 2017 at the end of a 3-year run as their defensive coordinator. But he has been around the block forever and ever. I mean, I remember him as the DC of Giants teams that were, making fluky Super Bowl runs back in just after I got out of high school in the 2000s, right? And then he went to the Rams as a head coach. That was kind of disastrous. I think his reputation took a big hit, but he got back on track as a DC with the Saints, and then he went to Baltimore. But you're right. This is one of the most respected, revered defensive coaches in the league. Give me a kind of, when you were playing, if you were going up against like a Spags defense, how would you describe schematically, like what is a Spags defense in your mind?
Yeah, they've changed a little bit, to my eye over the last couple of years. Like to me, he was like a ton of man coverage. You're going to be really aggressive, like kind of in all situations. And they've they've modified a little bit. I think you see some of the split high safety disguise stuff to start, at least this year. You kind of see that like quarter shell with either that quarter safety weak is fitting the run as a run player. But I do feel like you're getting some rotation. So are they rotating to single high in certain looks? They've kind of adopted elements of Vic Fangio in that regard, where it's like, we're going to kind of make the pre-snap snap stuff look the same and then kind of adjust, which feels a little bit different than what he used to do. But they've always been a 4-down front. They've always been extremely disciplined. He likes these kind of Karlaftis ends, like these bigger, more physical guys that can play the run and be disruptive. And I mean, really, yes, like that is a feature of it. But I think the thing also is just like how he's able to get good linebacker play seemingly wherever he goes for a position group that just seems so hard to develop and so hard to find people that can do it. To get 3 of those dudes in the same room that are playing really excellent football is, I think, a testament to him and his philosophy in terms of developing.
In terms of coverages and usage, one thing I've got here that I saw, I want to see if this kind of matches what your eyes told you. They play cover 1 18% of the time, which is way below, not way below, but considerably below league average. But they are number 3 in the NFL in the success that they have in doing that. Yards per attempt, completion percentage, also number 3. They've also got 3 interceptions in that look, which is tied for the most in the NFL. Is that about what you see, that you didn't see a lot of that on tape? It was about little sub 20%.
Yeah. And again, like that's, I think, even probably slightly over what they would like to be doing because of who they played. Like when they played Detroit, they were in a lot of that single high look, whether it's pre-snap or post-snap, because of the personnel and the formations that the Detroit Lions were in. So I do think, like, yes, that feels right. But again, like it's a testament to Spags, man, his ability to run a coverage you don't run a lot of, get high execution out of it, and also get a lot of ball production out of it too. I think just speaks to, again, there's never a time when you're watching film where you're like, man, that's a huge coverage bust, or that's a mistake, or that's a misrun fit. Inevitably that does come up, but like they're going to make you earn it in a way that is very unique to the defenses, at least this year, that we've seen so far. So it's a testament to him. It's a testament to how he coaches. And really, I think you brought up a great point there, and it's something that I think is probably undervalued. It's just the continuity across the board is incredible there for those guys, and they all know where they fit. They know their responsibilities, and it really, like, in terms of just fun football watching. To me, I really enjoy watching them because of how detailed and disciplined they are.
They're the number 5 defense in the NFL in terms of the metrics used to do rankings, which is yards per game, which I think is flawed. I'm a yards per play guy. They're 11th in that capacity. They're 22nd against the run. They're 13th against the pass, 15th in interception rate, 13th at sacks per pass attempt. Top 5, though, in first downs per game, kind of getting off the field. They're number 7 on third down. They've been really good against fourth downs this year as well. They're top 2 there. And where they've been awesome, honestly, is goal to go. They're number 3. They force you to kick some short field goals occasionally. Statistically, it's kind of middling, but they're coming off of a shutout of the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are bad. We saw Vegas in Landover, and we know what that looks like. But I don't know that I've seen that dominant a game when I went back and watched, I guess it was 2 nights ago. I don't know what to say about it. I mean, the first down was like 30-3. The Raiders ran fewer snaps this past week than the Chiefs had points. And they started basically like trying to give them the ball back with kneels before the 2-minute warning. Like, this was as close to a mercy rule game as I've seen in the NFL in a long time. They whooped the Raiders, dude. They looked in every way. They just looked dominant.
Yeah. And so I didn't watch too much of that game because you couldn't really derive a lot from it. But they have that ability. And I think those statistics you laid out there are really, it aligns perfectly with the film, and it should, because they're just statistical representations of the data you're watching on tape. Is, again, you can get them a little bit. Like, you watch a Detroit game, there's some explosive runs, there's a couple explosive catches. But in these critical moments, their execution is extremely high. Like you mentioned, the fourth down stuff. Like, there was a blitz. It was a 4th and 2. They were running like a little choice to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown beats Trent McDuffie on the in cut. Jared Goff sees the throw, and he kind of turfs it. You go back and you watch the tight copy, and they run like a little bit of it's a 5-man pressure. They're bringing kind of a nickel pressure to the offensive right, and then you get a one-on-one with Chris Jones to the offensive left. He beats the guard. The guy who's rushing over the center beats the center. You get 2 free runners to the quarterback. Goff gets the ball out, but it's a bad throw. And it's just like, in those moments, the detail of the blitz pattern, the ability to win one-on-ones, cover up the secondary in the back end, like, that's what makes this team good, man. It's hard to run they make it hard to run the football, which again is a Spags characteristic in my opinion. They make it hard to run the football, and they're good enough in pass coverage and good enough at the rush that they can win in these these critical moments. Like you mentioned, the red zone, same thing in the Detroit game. Like, they just found a way to figure it out. And again, like the Raiders game, I'm going to put that aside, but over the course of the season, especially like against Jacksonville, against Detroit, you see a different kind of cut of team defensively. And I do think those critical winning time moments for them, like, it shows up in terms of how they play them.
When you study tape, so you're talking about, like, essentially not completely dismissing, but like, there's not a lot to be learned from that Raiders tape, which makes sense. Are you generally looking for like a similarly potent offense to Washington, or someone who does some of the same things because you think that's more instructive, or just a game where, because it was either tighter or the way it played out in game script, like, they were themselves more often? Like, I totally get why the Raiders game would be like, whatever. But like, just as a kind of more vague question, when you watch tape, are you trying to find someone that's similar-ish to the Commanders, or do you just watch what you have?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, one, I want to kind of find similar formations, similar runs, similar pass concepts. You're not going to find similar pass concepts, but just how does like their cover, how does their quarters distribute? How does their cover 3 distribute? How do they play man? Like, what are the tells for man? Like, outside leverage, inside leverage. Are they off? Do they stem to it? Just to kind of get a feel. And then, I'll watch it. So like, that's more like cut-ups, right? Because you get a feel, like, first, second down, you watch those cut-ups, you're like, okay, like, this is kind of who they want to be on first and second down. Then you watch the third down stuff, and most teams now are like heavy man, some type of 5-man pressure, some cases 6-man pressure. It's all out, whatever it looks like, right? So you get a feel for those situations. And then I usually like to watch the game to see how each game kind of changes based on the opponent, right? Because there's a little bit of a game plan element to Spagnuolo, right? Like, so, like, for example, I wanted to watch all the third downs versus Detroit. I wanted to watch all the 4th and shorts versus Detroit, just to kind of get a feel for what, like, when it gets hot, when he needs a play, like what's he going to do? And he's going to heat you up and bring some type of exotic pressure. So I think and again, like first and second down, there's not a ton of pressure, but they're really good with their run fits. So that's something where it'll be interesting to see how they handle the Commanders, just to kind of turn it back to them. After watching all this film, it's like, are they a big first and second down pressure team? Not really. But are they going to do it because the Bears did it and because the Cowboys did it and it was very successful? That to me is kind of the $1 million question leading into this. Like they're going to heat them up on third down, no doubt. Like they are going to bring that fastball. It's going to be 1,000 miles an hour. It's going to be excellent. But on first and second down, how do they handle it given the last two opponents and how successful they were with that pre-snap pressure stuff?
To some of Logan's points that he's been making about how they run their defense, they're in zone going into that Raiders game about 71% of the time this season, which was the highest rate under Spagnuolo. You talked about seeing more of that, them being a little different than you remember when you played against them. And then also the blitz rate is eighth highest in the NFL right now at 33%.
Oh, wow. That's higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, but that was before. Again, the Raiders game may have skewed it a little bit. That was the number I had before the Raiders game. But a couple of individual players. Nick Bolton has a tackle on the 23% of running plays this season, which is top 5 for linebackers in the NFL. He is always around the ball, this guy. And he moves. He can run, and he covers a ton because they ask him to. I saw that he was one of the highest targeted linebackers in the league, but I didn't view that as problematic. I think that they just trust him to do a lot. We talked about George Karlaftis, went into week 7, 29 pressures, was 4th in the league at defensive end. I don't think a lot of people think of him as like one of the better pass rushers in the league, but his pressure rate of 16%, was higher than it's been at any point in his career. And then the guy we haven't really talked about too much is Chris Jones, who has the fastest get-off time among any defensive tackle in the NFL this year with 75 or more pass rushes. And this is an all-pro, like fringe DPOY type player, year in and year out. He took on some heat because there were a couple of bad viral clips of him like not playing really hard at big moments earlier this year. And I don't know exactly what led to that. But here's what I do know, Logan. For about a half decade, this has been as good a defensive tackler as there is in football. And he's one of the hardest guys to block at his position.
Yeah, I think you summed it up really nicely there. I love watching Nick Bolton play football. He's physical, downhill. He's going to smash you in the face. He can cover a little bit. I mean, he's not, Fred Warner, but he's a good football player, fun football player to watch. Karlaftis is the same type of thing. I mentioned at the top of this segment, just like incredibly consistent, not overly exotic, but like that consistency has led to a lot of pressures and a lot of success for him. And then Chris Jones, man, like I know he's maybe not the player he once was in terms of consistent down and out effort, especially on first and second down, but you do not want to be messing with this guy in third down passing situations. Like he is a problem. And so obviously, like we mentioned the pressure stuff that they bring on third down, he's going to get on one-on-one. And you think about him against, Cosme, I thought had a pretty solid pass protection week last week. He's going to get that rep. Chris Paul is going to get that rep. And those are guys that he can beat, because he's, again, that caliber of player. So, it's a fun defense to watch. And I think it's going to be interesting to think about how the Commanders handle it because of how consistent they are.
Talk about that. I mean, how will they handle it? I guess we should go back into the big story here of Daniels not playing and Mariota playing. When that has been the case, I haven't noticed a big difference in like play calling or tendencies or anything because they're similar style guys. I just think Mariota, this is not meant as a ding against Jaden. I think he might be better like read option than Jaden. Yeah. One of the best in the league at that. You're going to get some natural design like read option looks or whatever. But what else changes here? What would you do to insulate Mariota, to just help him that maybe you wouldn't have to do with Daniels? And if you're Cliff, how does this change your algorithm?
Yeah, so with Mariota, I think by himself, it doesn't really change too much of the offense. I was going to say exactly the same thing you were going to say with the zone read stuff. I think he's a more potent threat on first and second down, right? And I think what
does he do so well there? Like, why is he so good at that?
So basically, like there's a zone read, like the back's gonna, like if the back's offset to the right, he's gonna have his left elbow up and his right arm underneath. And so what he does is the back is going to take that ball like it's his, right? And Mariota does this thing, which a lot of good zone read quarterbacks do, where there's two hands on the football. So he's going to ride that thing all the way almost to the end of his arm length and then either let it go or pull it out. And so that is a skill. Like I've gone to coaching clinics because I'm trying to incorporate that at the high school level. That is so hard to develop in a short period of time. But he had, 4 or 5 years at Oregon to develop that. He did it in high school quite a bit. And his ability to sync that thing for almost like a full half second before he declares whether he's handing the ball off or pulling it is awesome. And you see it affect defensive players at a tremendously high level. So I think that to me is like his, like if I wanted to go to a player and say, like, how do I run the zone read? I would for sure go to Marcus just because of his ball handling. Like, people used to talk about Peyton Manning on the play action fakes and hiding the football. He's essentially doing that same thing, just it's applying to zone read. Like he is that good and proficient at it.
You could see it. I mean, he hits one for like 20 yards, it feels like.
Yeah.
Almost every game he plays for this team. How about the passing game? What
I think this
changes
this is the storyline, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, and so if everybody's healthy, I don't think anything changes, right? I think you feel really comfortable kind of running the same stuff. Maybe you have a lower volume of quick game because that's Jaden's superpower, in my opinion, his ability to get the ball out quickly to spots versus zone. Like that's what he's really good at, right? With Marcus, not so much, a little bit more traditional drop back stuff, a little bit more play action stuff. But I think the story is like, are the receivers going to be healthy? Because like, quite frankly, like it doesn't matter who's out, like who is in at quarterback if we can't create separation on the perimeter. Because like we talked about, like they're, Trent McDuffie's excellent player, right? Jalen Watson been very productive for them, even though he's not like a highly touted name. So they've got good corners that can play man coverage, that can put you in spots that are difficult to deal with. And so like my initial thought is like, hey, to run the football, I want to spread them out. I want to keep them in a 2 high safety structure. I want to have some type of pre-snap run alert, whether it's a screen, whether it's an RPO kind of stick type concept over here to the offensive left, something that gives me a light box count where I can run to the offensive right. The problem is if I'm Spagnuolo, I'm not really afraid of any of your receivers necessarily if Terry or Debo don't play. So I'm just going to man that up on the perimeter, which immediately takes that away as an option and allows me to play plus numbers in the box. So that's the thing that I think to me is the hard kind of sell here. Are there ways to manipulate this defense? Yes. Are there kind of clear ways to do that? Yes, because he's so regimented in how he coaches it. And that's a two-edged sword, right? One is exactly where they're going to be. The other problem is that they're really good at being in those spots, so it's hard to manipulate it. But none of that really, really matters if we can't affect your coverage structure and how you want to play over our numbers at receiver. If you're not going to affect that, if you're not going to change that, then do we pack it in nice and tight where we can get picks and rubs and kind of defeat your man concepts? There's drawbacks to that as well. So I think, kind of reviewing the game last week, reviewing the game the week before, I think Cliff's done an excellent job of calling these games with the offensive firepower being what it is. But there are a ton of difficulties that are presented when you don't have guys on the perimeter that have the horsepower to win consistently versus man-to-man. And that's not to criticize the guys that are playing. Let me be very clear. That's not a criticism of them. It's just an observation. Like there's a reason Terry McLaurin's making $50 million. It's because of his ability to win man-to-man coverage routes. Same thing with Debo Samuel, right? You pay those top flight guys that way because of their ability to win versus man. And right now, Cliff has been having to elevate in terms of play call to get those guys in good positions to be successful, which is very, very difficult to do.
And for the record, it sounds like they're both going to play, at least according to what Dan Quinn said early in the week. Now, he has not gone on record to say they'll play, but he does this interview every week on SiriusXM, and he said they should both be able to get on the practice field throughout the week. We have not had a practice to monitor yet because Washington didn't go on Wednesday as they traditionally do because it's Monday night, so that was like a Tuesday. So we'll get more info today. If they're listed limited, I guess it's more interesting. But if they're listed full practice today, then they're going to go. But my thing with that is, even if they're like everyone's just asking the question, are they going to play? What do they look like?
Right.
In Terry's case,
legit, yeah.
Like he's coming back after a several week hiatus now. So what does that look like? Is he in great shape or is he just 100% like ready? And then in Debo's case, it's not a lengthy layoff. I don't worry about rust like I would with Terry, but like, how is the heel? It's like, okay, cool. You're playing. A lot of guys play through injuries. And like you were talking a couple weeks ago about playing through a hamstring where you couldn't get to full speed necessarily, but you're able to do anything inside of 10 yards. Like Debo against the Bears was not the same guy as Debo against the Raiders. So I not only want to see them on the field, but they kind of have to be themselves to get the max effort of this offense.
I think that's a great point. And that's one of the things you're always negotiating when you're returning from injury, right? It's just like, yeah, you guys are good football players, but are you 100%? And where is that line? And is whatever percentage you're at better than the people that are backing you up? Those are all legitimate questions that I think hopefully, and I will say this, like I have been very impressed so far with how the medical staff has handled a lot of these injuries, how they've handled return to play. They seem to get guys back at the appropriate time. There doesn't seem to be a lot of kind of residual layover. You know what I mean? Like I think about Jaden with the knee. Obviously the hamstring pops up, but the knee has been fine. You know what I mean? Like they've just handled return to play stuff really well. And so if that staff determines that they're ready to go, I would expect them to be ready to go. But I think you bring up an interesting point with Terry because again, like wasn't here for a lot of the offseason, had a short kind of return to play at the beginning of season, been off for a couple of weeks. Like where is the conditioning at? Because for receivers, like talking to Santana, like that's been crazy illuminating, like, you know, one of the best to ever do it here in Washington, and talking to him about the conditioning and how the legs feel and the kind of sports specific training required to make sure you're ready to go has been really fascinating. And so I don't want to undervalue that component of it in Terry coming back. And I think, like you said, with Debo, like that is less of a concern to me, but obviously you're negotiating a heel injury, which, you know, deleterious long-term, probably not, but is it going to be crazy annoying to play with if it's still bothering him? Absolutely. So I think it's a great question to bring up. I do think they need to get some more firepower on the perimeter. And if they don't have it, I'm really curious to see how Cliff handles some of those limitations in the offense moving forward.
They also got to run the ball better this week. I mean, they struggled last week, and a lot of that has to do with the passing game and, you know, the people stacking the box. I get that, but they also struggled against the light boxes last week as well.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point, and I've heard a couple people bring that up, and it's 100% valid. I also think like the offense needs to find more consistency, right? Like one of the things, like there's the 3 drops, there's a couple misses by Jaden. When you go back and watch the offensive film, it's frustrating in a way that is hard to explain because you're like, man, there are opportunities here for them to complete footballs, for them to sustain drives. So can they find a level of consistency with these plays that Cliff has drawn up and schemed up to put them in a good position to be successful? Like when we run the play action shot and we get the guy open down the field, we got to hit it, right? We can't, like, we're not good enough at the moment to kind of negotiate a drop or an incomplete pass or an overthrow. Like we got to get on base with those. And I think to Cliff's credit, he's done a good job finding those opportunities. It's just, can we hit them consistently as players? And so that's what I'd say, just to kind of double click on that point. Like if they're going to play heavy boxes or we're having a hard time running the ball, like there are these opportunities down the field that we have to hit in order to get them to kind of loosen up and push back.
Yeah, because theoretically they can't take away both things at the same time. So your point is like, yeah, the Cowboys made a decision. Here's how we're going to do this. And then if you're Washington, there's some things there that you can now hit behind that heavy box, and they weren't able to. But when they've been rolling, and the vast majority of the last year and a half offensively, that's been the case. You know, those plays aren't missed. Those layups go in the hoop. And you get on base and you got traffic, and now they're working from the stretch against you, and you're able to steal some bases. All right, let's get into the defense for Washington next. No pressure coming off of a week where you've been called on the carpet. It's just Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. So Joe Witt, without Dorrance Armstrong, go get him. We will talk about that next on Take Command. Welcome back. Take Command. Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen, getting ready to head to Kansas City for a little Monday Night Football. The Commanders and the Chiefs. By the way, what a schedule run here of games that everybody's watching. So you have Monday night against the Bears, and unfortunately it wasn't a great performance and you lose. Then you go to the national TV 425 game, only show in town, and Burkhart and Brady call your game. That one wasn't pretty in Dallas. Now you got Monday Night Football against the Chiefs and then Sunday Night Football against the Seahawks. Now I get it. This is what happens when you go to the NFC Championship game, you have the quarterback that everybody loves and wants to watch. But man, oh man, the timing has not been great as the Commanders are dealing with these injuries and playing some of their worst football here over the last year. So you hope for a better performance with all eyes watching them this week. I can't wait to get to Kansas City. I already told you that. I'm a barbecue guy, but you don't really eat food. So would you eat any barbecue on this trip or no?
I eat some barbecue. Yeah, I eat that's what people, I eat stuff. I eat stuff that people like to eat, but I eat not as much of it as most normal people eat. But
okay, on this trip, like what is I have a game plan where I've already mapped out 9 places I want to get to in 2 days.
I'm not doing that. Yeah.
Well, I'm aware of that. You're a reasonable person. But like, what is your game plan? Like, are you going to get barbecue, or if it happens, it happens? Like, how do you
if it happens, it happens. I'll tell you this. The last couple of times we've had road games, you know what I've done? I've gone to Publix and gotten like a rotisserie chicken with some like Greek yogurt and like some popcorn, like high fiber popcorn. And that's been my dinner the past couple times, just so you know, like where my food is at the moment. Like no nice restaurant.
Tough.
But hey, it's
so like you're staying at the nicest hotel in the city downtown, generally, or wherever.
Yeah.
And, like nice. They obviously have some type of wonderful restaurant that you don't even have to leave the lobby to eat in. Or you could just like, I don't know, hit up a coach or a player and be like, hey man, where are you guys eating? And you could just go have a dinner. And instead you just grab or do you use utensils or using your hands with the rotisserie chicken?
I usually use my hands. I feel like we leave too much meat on the bone with the utensils, man. We got to like get that thing finger licking clean.
How much of the rotisserie chicken do you eat?
Oh, I eat the whole thing.
The gigantic rotisserie chicken?
Yeah.
There's no chance.
It's probably like 80 grams of protein, coach. Like we gotta hit our protein.
So you go into like a Publix where they have the heated rotisserie chickens like on the racks in the bag. Yeah. Like oiled bottom, kind of like, and you take it to the hotel.
Sometimes I'll just eat in the parking lot, just sit on a curb there and pop that thing in. You know what I'm saying?
That's not true.
I've done that before. And people are like, whoa, what's that guy about? But hey,
That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So this past week, did you take the rotisserie chicken to the hotel?
They had a Starbucks like in the like the front of the store. So I just popped in there, ate it.
With your fingers.
Yeah. I mean, I had a utensil, but like, fingers, little napkin, you know what I'm saying? Like a little water, like.
Okay. And then when it's done, it's just like the bones and the carcass or whatever?
Yeah. Then you just pop that thing in the trash, boom, and then head back to the hotel.
And did you have a side or?
Well, I had what I had, popcorn was my side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you did your high fiber popcorn. That is unbelievable.
But,
can we get my guy to a steakhouse?
It's inexpensive. It hits all my protein markers. Get the fiber from the popcorn. Like you're planning out for taste. I'm planning out in a different way. I'm planning out for cost efficiency and function is really what I'm planning out.
Well, my guy played a decade in the NFL. We can get you a ribeye somewhere. I promise you we can.
But this is me just being like a, pinky up kind of guy here. It's like sometimes, Grant, like I don't like how there's too much butter and too much salt on that steak. Like, let me just get that thing on the grill, flip that thing over, put it on my plate. You know what I'm saying?
This is tough.
I will. Okay,
so next time you go to Green Bay, I don't know if you know about this place where I forget the name of it. I think it's like Prime Quarter or something, but I love this spot. So they bring the cuts of meat to your table. Mm-hmm. Like as raw steak, right? You then pick the cut that you want, you put it on a plate, and then you go grill it. There's this gigantic, open grill in the middle of the restaurant that everyone grills at. So you're sitting there with your beer, or in your case, your water, and then you sit there and you flip the steak, and there's oils and salts and peppers and whatever you want, and you cook your own steak and then take it back to your table, and they've got a big side cart that comes through. So like that could be your spot.
That could be my spot, but also like when I go to a steakhouse, like cook the steak. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be cooking that thing. Like you've done this a lot more times than me. You go cook that thing.
All right. I was just trying to help you not get it so salty and oily. I mean, how about if you prepare the way you want it?
I've actually gone to restaurants, been like no salt, no butter on the steak.
Really?
Yeah.
And what do they say? Are they cool with that? Or?
They're like, oh yeah, cool. Usually it's not like a nice place. I won't do that at a nice place, but like, if that's like Outback Steakhouse, no salt, no butter, they'll just throw that thing on there for.
So if you're in Kansas City, Missouri, driving past a Publix on Sunday,
I might go get some Might go do some work in a Publix.
And you see a guy sitting on the curb in the parking lot with a rotisserie chicken up to his mouth like a chicken wing, just trying to gnaw the last meat off the bone. Just know that's my guy Logan. Thinking about the next episode of Take Command. All right, let's get to the now that I'm officially got that visual going. Let's get to the Chiefs offense against the Commanders defense. So start with the Chiefs offense. I mean, they are humming now, getting Rashid.
This is going to sound crazy, Grant. It's going
Yeah.
to sound insane, and I'm here for it. You can call me crazy, leave a comment, do whatever you want to do. After watching a lot of film, I think I watched every drop back from this year. I actually think this is going to be an easier out than the Dallas Cowboys were last week. Now, does that mean it's an easy out? No, but I think it's going to be an easier opportunity, and I'll explain why. So what I would say is that they have a lot of fast players on this football team. I think everyone's familiar with Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, Hollywood Brown. They're all fast. I don't really see any good detailed route runners necessarily, and I don't see a lot of guys that win 50-50 contested catches. And I see a lot of defensive backs that are able to get hands on these guys when given the opportunity. And Andy Reid does a great job of kind of formationing, bunches, stacks, get guys free releases. But when they don't have them, they don't hurt you the same way that some of these other receivers do. So they are functions of the offense. They're features of the offense. They're not the offense the same way that CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens was last week, right? Where they're just here are some studs. They're going to make plays on the perimeter. Now, that being said, they did get kind of their stud back in Rashid Rice, who's the guy that I see as consistently winning versus man-to-man coverage. So my initial thought, and I talked to Fletch about this yesterday, was in a perfect world, if you felt comfortable, you'd play some type of man-to-man coverage on the perimeter. You try to take away the RPO on first and second down. You'd have a spy for Patrick Mahomes on third and long, third and medium, and just be we dare you. We dare you to beat us down the field. Because quite frankly, they don't do a ton of that. A lot of their explosive plays, I think they had 20 explosive plays over the last 3 games, come from here's a little screen, here's a choice route where someone misses a tackle. Let's play good coverage. Let's make tackles on the football. Let's keep them horizontal. Let's limit the vertical exposures. And I think you got a shot. The problem is Patrick Mahomes is an absolute baller. And every explosive opportunity that's down the field is he's beating a blitz, he's breaking a tackle, he's throwing something off platform. The coverage structure is broken down and there's a guy wide open down the field. So that's the thing that I would negotiate here is can you play man coverage on first, second down? I would say yes. I would say, yes, you can. And then I would say, how do you manage Patrick Mahomes? And that one is the question that is the outlying question that I don't really have a great answer to.
So, and nobody does. That's why he's won multiple MVP awards and gets to the Super Bowl pretty much every single year. On Mahomes, it's funny because the first couple of weeks, their offense looked broken through the air. He wasn't doing a whole lot. And now you look at it, and he's got some of the best numbers of any quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he's the number 1 fantasy quarterback in terms of points generated. I only bring that up to say, he's stacking numbers, and he's doing it as a dual threat, too. We know what that looks like when a guy can run and score touchdowns or whatever. But, he's scrambled 33 times rushing attempts this year. That leads the NFL. At the quarterback position. 248 scramble yards is second in the NFL. 3 scramble touchdowns, most in the league. So that's all just with his feet, which is not traditionally what you think about. He's also throwing deep more than he ever has right now, or I should say more than any year since 2020. About 11% of the time. You got to go back the exit of Tyreek Hill to find the last time he was chucking the ball deep this often. So I found that interesting. But he is rolling right now. He's at 3 games in a row where he's got a quarterback rating over 120. He's done it, 3 of the last 4 he's done that. He only had 2 of those games in 19 contests before this last stretch. So they have figured something out on offense, and that was before they got Rashid Rice back. And then last week, Logan, Rashid Rice was heavily used. He ended up getting targeted, 7 times last week, and he had his highest target rate, I think, of his career. It was the ball was thrown to him 10 times on 16 routes. He had 7 catches, I should say. But that's 10 targets on 16 routes run in a game is crazy work.
Yeah, and he definitely has a different skill set than everybody else in that offense. We mentioned the kind of speed, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton. He's got a kind of a one receiver type of vibe to him. And what I mean by that is like he can win in the slot. He can win versus man coverage. He can win in the perimeter. He can win 50-50 contested catch balls. And, everyone was talking about, Rashid Rice, when he comes back, this offense is going to be dangerous. And I didn't really understand that from a national narrative perspective until I watched the film. And I was like, oh, this is what everyone's talking about. Is this dude's a stud when it comes to running routes and winning versus man coverage, and they don't have anybody else in the offense like that. Like Travis Kelce is very effective this year, but it's mostly on zone stuff. It's mostly on schemed up stuff, and he's been awesome. But having that dude that we can put him in there, and I know in man situations he can win, that's the thing that Rashid Rice brings that is totally unique and something they haven't had in the last couple of years in the offense.
Yeah, and he only played on 30 of 62 snaps in his return last week. So remember, he got suspended for the first 6 games. He got in a lot of trouble off the field this offseason. He came back last week and played for the first time. And now this is his second game. So, after playing about 50% of snaps, and how much of that was the blowout, I don't know. Like, what does that look like this week? I'd imagine you turn up the faders on him some. But again, 7 catches, 10 targets, 16 routes run. It's hard to be any more productive. You're not going to see numbers like that very often, I guess would be my point. On Kelce. So it's interesting. You were, just brought up some points on him. He needs 1 touchdown to become the 5th tight end with at least 80 in his career. He would join Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski, and Jimmy Graham on that list. He's one of the best to ever do it. I get that. I watch him, and I think he is like almost done. I mean, like kind of a shell of himself. Washed is probably too strong, but like he does not scare me anymore. The Travis Kelce you think about is like catch and run 40 yards in the seam and breaking tackles. This is like a kind of a catch and fall guy to me at this point. Do you disagree with that based on the tape?
I think there's still elements of the catch and run stuff. Like he had a really nice play versus, I think it was the first or second play of the game versus Detroit, where he catches a little choice, makes the middle linebacker miss, and kind of stumbles and bumbles for 10 yards, right? So there is an element of that to his game, but I think, and I agree with you, he's not what he once was by any stretch of the imagination. But I think the thing that he brings now that is so unique to him is his relationship with Patrick Mahomes is bonkers. Like there's a couple times where they're running like a little, what I would call a spot concept. So you're getting like a dig, you're getting like a 5-yard sit by Travis Kelce and a flat by number 3. And there's a free runner to the quarterback. The blitz works out perfectly. It's first down. There's nobody blocks him. And Patrick Mahomes throws the ball before he's out of his break. Travis Kelce turns around. He slides into the zone, and Patrick had thrown the ball there. Like, it wasn't like he was chasing the ball. It's like he naturally flew. Like, so for them to be that copacetic and that in sync all the time is really tremendous. And that's the thing that I find very frustrating in terms of planning how to stop them, is because they just have this connection that is incredible. Like the detailed nature which they can play the position is incredible. And so it gets them out of a lot of stuff is basically what I'm saying. So yeah, he's not hurting you the same way, down the field, catch and run, stiff arming people. It's not that. It's the consistency that they had a RPO versus Jacksonville, and there's no way Travis Kelce was just supposed to kind of ooze off the ball to 3 yards and turn and catch the football. But they saw the coverage the same way. He gets the football. He runs forward for a 9-yard gain. It's 2nd and 1. You know what I mean? He does so much to keep them on schedule that is that's irritating.
It's another continuity. I mean, I always say this, like, there is this chicken or the egg thing where you have to be good enough to keep getting the chances, but you're also better because of all the time that you spent with people.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I remember talking to Kirk Cousins about this, where like several years into his career, he's like, it's just crazy how things slow down and you start to see things the same way as people, and you're, around Jefferson and Addison at that time for a long time or whatever. And like, that to me, watching the Chiefs is what they are. It's especially those two, but Andy Reid on the sideline is kind of the same way. Like, they all feel and see the game so similarly, and they make it work.
No, I think that's 100% right. And so like, it's funny when you watch the offense, you're not like, oh my God, this is so well designed. This is so well schemed. Like, when we watch the Bears and when you watch Detroit, when you watch San Francisco, you're like, dude, that was so smart. That motion did a great job of creating this little void here. And here it's just like, it really feels like to me at times that they're just like, there's 11 dudes and they're all just playing like pickup football outside. Like, that's sometimes what it feels like. It's like, I know what concept this is, but the way he ran this route, the space that he found, and the fact that Mahomes knew to throw to that spot on timing is like diabolical, quite frankly. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, there was a play versus Jacksonville where, again, Jacksonville had a perfect blitz call. They get a free run to the quarterback, and Patrick Mahomes hits his back foot and just arm punts this thing up to Tyquan Thornton. It's man coverage, so I identified the coverage correctly. Tyquan Thornton's running on the football. The DB's running to him, and Tyquan Thornton just stops and catches it like a punt, and it's a 40-yard gain. And you're like, what is going on? Like, how does that happen? How does that chemistry develop? And that's the thing that, again, the offense schematically, it's fine. Like, I'm not going to, like, Andy Reid's one of the best coaches of all time, so I'm not like trying to criticize that, but it's the thing that makes it cook is the painting outside the lines that they do. That's so impressive. And it's like Tyquan Thornton's only been there for a year. This is his first year there, but he's got some of that. Juju Smith-Schuster, like when he's on the field, the connection's tremendous. Like, and then you add explosive elements like Brashard Smith from SMU, the running back that they've got that's catching all these screens. You're just like, it's a frustrating offense to game plan because you're like, it shouldn't be that hard to stop them, but it's the interpersonal connections that Patrick Mahomes has with his playmakers that makes the thing go.
Yeah, I'm sneaky worried about Smith in this game, just getting him in space with his speed.
Dude, he's got the juice, man.
He's
does. Got the juice.
It also is such a juxtaposition from their other guys. When you watch like Pacheco and Hunt, not to dog those two guys, but they're very kind of average and physical and plotting. And then you see him, and it's like a complete change of pace that is pretty alarming and scary defensively. I would say the Chiefs offense, 12 personnel on about a third of their snaps, which is sixth highest in the league. So, they're able to line up with some extra tight ends and they get creative in the run game. But I don't worry.
Noah Gray's a baller too. Like,
he's good.
As a guy,
Really
who watches a lot of tight ends, like they've got good tight end depth there. And again, they just make a play. And so just to kind of finish that thought, like they run a ton of RPOs on first and second down, like a ton. I think they have the highest RPO rate in the NFL. And they're just trusting Mahomes to make them right. Here's a third and long. We're trusting Mahomes to make us right. And I think that's what makes him so special is that he does, like, I'm going to scramble. I'm going to extend. I'm going to find this guy down the field. Like, and because again, like, I think there's things you can do schematically to hurt them, and teams have hurt them. But Patrick Mahomes is the guy that in that moment just elevates you to where you got to go.
One last one here really quickly on just looking at Washington's defense itself, less about the Chiefs. So no Dorrance Armstrong. It's a tall order trying to get pressure off the edge consistently. I actually really like how Jacob Martin played, had 7 pressures. We'll see a lot more of him probably. But what about just having Luvu legit be an edge and play McGee at linebacker on passing downs? Like that's what I would try. I don't know that they will. Why is that a bad idea?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't. I think it's just about like what's the best usage for everybody. So one of the thoughts I had is like I think and again, this is me, like I don't know the guys like, the way these coaches know them. But I think in a perfect world, I'd probably move to like a 25 front. So I'd have Frankie Louvu be your on-ball Sam linebacker. I'd have Kinlaw be the 5 technique. I'd have Eddie Goldman play the shade, and I'd have Daron Payne play the backside 3 technique, and then Jacob Martin play the stand-up end of the perimeter. And so you are in a 5-man front, but because it's a 25 front, you can drop Frankie Louvu out. You can do some things there. And again, you can still be a nickel versus that. They've done a little bit of that, but they've been more traditional jam. But I like the idea of moving Kinlaw out to kind of like an end role as that 5 technique. Eddie Goldman as a true nose. Payne is the 3, the weak side, because like run to you, he's going to kill it. Run away, he can pursue it down. And then Jacob Martin rushes the passer. And I think if you have McGee in there, he's covered up to the backside and can run and hit to the football. So that's something that like I think would be interesting. Again, the problem with that is that like you are in like a traditional base defense, and how much base defense are you going to be in? So to kind of take yours a step further, like, do you mean like go Jacob Martin, Daron Payne, Kinlaw, and then have Frankie on the edge on like that is something they could do, but I do think you're not maximizing Frankie.
No, I think I'm talking more along I think we're actually kind of seeing it similarly, like a stand-up edge and a 5-man front on a passing down.
I think that's fine.
I
think that's perfect.
And maybe they do try that. But I also think he is currently the best pass rusher on your team. Now, Von Miller, I think, is more equipped, but like he's how many snaps are you getting kind of guy.
But I also think he's good at the run stuff too. Like he's physical, he sets edges, like he's a good football player. And so
And sneaky. This one's like, as an aside, I want to see McGee. He can run. Like, they lack speed, and I think he has speed. I want to get a guy on the field who can run.
Yeah, and so I think that's something they could definitely look into, and they have looked into versions of that, but maybe it becomes a higher volume thing. Again, like to me, that front I described, that's a perfect world. That's a pipe dream for me personally, but yeah, man, I think getting McGee on the field would be interesting. I think the other guy too would be like Tyler Owens. Can he get a larger role in the defense in some type of Buffalo nickel scenario, matching up on backs or tight ends? He did a good job early in training camp, but as the playbook got
bigger, do you bring him up again because of speed? Why do you say?
I think I just like the idea. Someone brought this up to me as like a basketball analogy. Like, you just get a bunch of dudes who are 6'8" with like 7-foot wingspans, and you just kill throwing lanes, you kill space. And so you add another person who's got long arms, big frame, can cover grass, can match up with tight ends. I just like the body type, and I like what he's done when he's been in. Again, like as the playbook's gotten bigger for him, it's gotten harder for him to be successful. That's why he's so good on teams. He's still growing into the defense, but he's a guy that I just think both those guys are really interesting to me, just in terms of physical skill set, run and hit mentality to the football.
Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen, take command. We'll make our predictions on who's going to play well on both sides of the ball next. Welcome back to Take Command. This pick segment is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. The total in this game is only 46.5 points. I think we hit the over here. I think Washington's offense has a much better game for starters. I think they are over 20 points or around 20 to 24 points in this game. And I think the Chiefs are up around 25 to 30 points in this game. So I'm looking at a total closer to 50 than 46.5. I think both teams are going to move the football, and Washington, particularly if Debo and Terry are back. Everyone nationally talks about the drop-off to Mariota as like, oh, now you can't run your offense. We know better. We've seen this. He ran an offense where they scored 40 against Carolina last year, and look what he did in the second half against the Cowboys last year. Heck, I thought the Raiders game this year, he was excellent. The Falcons game, he was pretty good. They didn't lose because of him or the offense in that game. So I think that they are able to move the ball. They might even, I like them catching 11.5 points, by the way, if we're talking about that too. But I love the over 46.5. Do you expect a lower scoring game here? How do you see the game script kind of playing out?
Yeah, I was talking to Fred about this the other day, and I think the thing that sticks out to me is in a game like this, if you're Washington and you want to control the football, like, do you lose a possession on the tail end of this game, which keeps you from that, so you win by it's 24-20 as the final score potentially, right? Because of how both teams want to play. And again, I already mentioned this, like, Kansas City's not this high potent down the field, hit you in the face offense like Dallas was. Like, they're a little bit more conservative, right? So I do think because of game flow, game style, it could potentially limit the number of points, not because the offenses aren't playing well, just because of game flow, time on the clock in terms of running clock, because of how they're going to handle play selection.
That's what the odds makers are certainly thinking. Once again, that was the pick segment brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. All right, we'll start with the Washington offense, Logan. Looking at the Chiefs' defense and how they play, who should get some opportunities to have a big game?
Yeah, I think someone that if Debo plays, like, he would be my guy 100%. Just based on how teams have been playing them, a good opportunity to get him some bubble screens to the perimeter, get him downhill, kind of as an extension of the running game. Kind of those design runs, which were so creative and so detrimental to opposing teams' defenses early in the season. Like, if he's healthy and he's in there, like, let's get that man the rock early and often, and let's let his explosive physical style carry us. So that's a guy that I would look to there.
Yeah, you take the Bears game out of the equation just because I'm not sure how healthy he was.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen him get targets 10, 8, only 3 against the Raiders. They didn't really need him. They blew them out. But 6, 11. I mean, the offense has kind of gone through him. He's had 3 70-plus yard games as a receiver this season. Could be a 4th looming. On the defensive side of the ball, the Chiefs are going to they don't even need to spread you out, but they're going to throw it on you. They're going to do it with multiple tight ends occasionally. They're going to take their shots down the field. Mahomes, highest rate in 5 seasons going deep. Who do you like defensively to have a good game?
Yeah, I actually part of me wants to say the secondary here. I don't know why. I don't have really great insight. I like the matchup a little bit better than I do last week. I think the physical style that Amos and Lattimore play with are going to be advantageous versus these really fast corners. Like if they can get hands on and disrupt them, they're not as effective down the field. And I think they're going to have to fit the runs. And I think like if those guys can play well, we got a shot in this game, And so I'm going to say, I for whatever reason, I just feel good about those guys this week in the matchup.
Enjoy your rotisserie chicken.
Thank you.
And we will reconvene after the ball game. Now, remember, we do a live take command after the game. Logan generally traveling back with the team, so Kedrick Colston, his former teammate, fills in with me. And then the next time you'll hear from us as a tandem of Paulsens will be right after the game with Logan's film breakdown early next week. Be a little bit different rhythm after a Monday nighter. But thanks for enjoying Take Command. You can watch us, 106.7 The Fan, Team 980 YouTubes. Subscribe, rate, review, and please spread the word. Do us a favor. Shoot this podcast to a friend this week that's never listened to it. That would be pretty cool. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll get back after it after a huge game with the Chiefs. The gauntlet about to get underway. It's Kansas City, Seattle, and Detroit in a 3-week stretch at 3-4. The season is in the balance. Washington trying to shock everybody in Kansas City. Thanks for checking out Take Command.